A very good day everyone. Today our group GreenTea will be presenting on the root cause analysis relating to the case of NNA Bank of Malaysia. My groupmates are Aina Ayuni, Aida Hanani, Azmina Nabila, Nurliana and Nur Shakira. The presentation outline will include the synopsis or executive summary, findings, discussion on the issue, conclusion of the case and recommendation and implementation. Hi, I am Nurliana and I will be presenting the synopsis or executive summary. I will start the presentation by presenting the background of the company. NNA Bank of Malaysia was first established in 1998. Upon receiving a lot of positive response from the public, NNA Bank opened more branches across the states, including in Negeri Sembilan, Kelantan and also Kuala Lumpur. The bank operates through a network of 30 branches and a total of 150 ATMs. The bank currently employs 10,000 staff and serves more than 2 million customers. With a broad range of banking services, the company acquires roughly 1.40 billion ringgit each year. Moving on to the executive summary, the purpose of this presentation is to find the appropriate solution to solve and discard the main issue that the company is facing. The field of research of this report is conducted through a series of data collection from reliable websites and insights from NNA Bank of Malaysia's employees. As for the issues, the main issue of NNA Bank is that the company had encountered an integration issue. The findings unveil that the company's main problem is due to the failure of network, servers, and also storage system. We will be discussing the various tools used as the theory in order to have thorough research on the cause of the issue. The theory encompasses the decision tree chart, root cause analysis, Ishikawa or fishbone diagram, and failure mode and effective analysis. The assumptions that have been made in order to go through the findings and issues in NNA Bank of Malaysia are outdated technology of the company, bad service maintenance, poorly designed software, and lastly, the vendor lacks of knowledge in developing the system. Next, I'll pass to the next presenter, Nur Aina Ayuni.
Hi, I am Ayuni. I will explain our findings from NNA Bank case. And we believe that the tools being chosen are the best tool for us to recognize the issues. First tool is a decision tree chart. Okay, so firstly, the issue faced by the company is that their network, servers, and storage system keep failing once every 2 months. Many fixes have been done on the network level and application level, and even monitored by the on-site staff. So the question is, does the system still fail? So there will be two possibilities outcomes, which is if no, and any bank can proceed using the system as usual. However, in the case of the company, their outcome is yes, which means the system still failed. Hence, another analysis should be carried out, which is, does the vendor carry out extensive research on the system failure? So if the answer is yes, the vendor has performed immense research, thus the vendor can proceed with fixing the system as they do have more information and deep thorough interpretation about what are actually the main problems. With that, an NA bank can operate as usual with more effective and well-operated system. The second possibility is no, the vendor does not carry out immense research. If so, 3 additional analyses should be done. First is whether the vendor is capable enough to find out the root cause of this problem. The second is whether the vendor has enough resources to solve this issue. The third is whether the problem actually comes from the bank itself or the vendor. From these 3 problem statements, if the answer is yes, then the vendor can proceed with fixing the problem and implement any solution. With this, an NA bank can operate its business as usual without having problems of ATM machine anymore. However, if the answer is no, then an NA bank should consider other options such as changing the vendor or replace the hardware or changing to a completely new system if needed. Second tool that we use is root cause analysis. Firstly, we have identified that the company has currently suffered a loss amounting to 1.5 million ringgit. Then we move to a further investigation by querying why an NA bank has suffered loss with such a huge amount. Then we have figured out that the loss actually comes from every branch of the company, as every system downtime, the company will lose 5,000 ringgit. Then we move to the second why to query more on where the loss comes from. To figure out on the second why, we have to collect the information regarding the problem. Hence, we have come to a decision to get the information from the manager of an NA bank. During the meeting with the manager, we were informed there is an issue in the IT department that the network, servers, and the storage keep breaking down and once every 2 months. After that, we proceed to the third why. The IT personnel told us that it starts when they change the vendor. After acknowledging that the problem starts when they change the vendor, we move to the fourth why. So after observing and analyzing the current situation in the company, we believe that it is an integration issue. It's not like putting all the blame on the new vendor, but it must come from this viewpoint. So we proceed with the fifth why. In the fifth why, it is assumed that the system introduced by the new vendor is not compatible with the company's hardware, as the vendor has fixed the system but still available. Hence, we would like to give the best solution for the company, which will be discussed in detail later.
I am Shakira and I will be giving the briefing on the third and fourth tools that we use to identify our findings. So with the application of the fishbone diagram, we have a clearer vision on the issues that might cause the problem to happen. We had listed out 5 primary categories of the causes of the problem. So for the design error, we figured that the issues might come from the inconsistency of the bank's ATM machine with the system designed by the vendor and the client-vendor communication error. These issues might arise due to the lack of research done by the bank's vendor before designing the system. Next, machine. We found out that the old and broken cables, equipment failure, and undetected defective of the ATM machines might be the reasons contributing to the system failure. This might be due to the machines being neglected and also the lack of maintenance upon receiving them. Continuing to the third category, testing, we identified that there is an incomplete testing done towards the system, leading to undiscovered errors. This might be due to the time constraints, as the bank might be pushing the vendor too much to start implementing the system before they were ready, as they had just changed the vendor. After going through the fourth primary category, maintenance, we figured that there is no proper maintenance done on the ATM machines, which had led to the undiscovered errors. This might be due to the insufficient budget, as maintenance will cost the bank a lot of money. Lastly, for the personnel, the vendor might have put incompetent employees with lack of training, which causes the system to be designed with too many errors. The employees of the bank in charge of observing the system might also be lacking of training, since there are no support from the top management to send them for training, as IT is not in their field of business. Other than that, it is evident that the vendor and employees of the bank has a lack of experience and knowledge in handling the system for ATM machines, as they are unable to resolve the problem even after such a long time. The last tool that we use is FMEA, Failure Mode and Effective Analysis Current State. This is where we give scores on the severance, occurrence, and detection of the failure, effects, potential causes, and controls of the processes. So after giving out the scores, all the numbers will be multiplied with each other, producing the RPN, risk priority number. The process with the highest RPN means that the process is the most critical, which should be given the most priority. In this case of NNA Bank of Malaysia, we found out that the failure from the system testing and maintenance process contributes to the highest severity with 225 RPM. This is because this will lead to the system failure, causing no work can be done. The reason for this issue to happen might be because no proper testing are done after the system was developed, as well as people working on the system are incompetent with lack of training and experience. The second highest RPM is with the system designing process, where the failure happens when there is system design error. This also contributes to the high severity, as the effect will lead to the system failure. Therefore, it is important for the people involved in designing and developing the system to know what they are doing as to avoid all this from happening. Thirdly, the planning and implementing of the system process, which are tied with the same RPN 192. The effects of the failure on these processes will lead to the system build not meeting the requirements and system failure. This might be due to the lack of clear communication between the vendor and the person representing the bank, and also the system design being too complicated or the bank's hardware being too outdated. Lastly, the fifth process with highest RPM is on picking out the most suitable vendor process. This is because the failure of this process will lead to the bank making the wrong decision in choosing the vendor. This will definitely lead the bank to having a system that fails to function properly, as what had happened.
Hi, I am Mina and I will be talking about the discussion of our case. As we know, the NNA Bank is facing problems with its network, server, and storage system, which keeps failing every 2 months before the system is open to the public. Therefore, to identify the main issue of the problem or failure, we have used the four root cause analysis, which is discussed previously by my colleague Yuni and Shakira. We believe that the main issue among all causes is an integration problem. Hence, to solve this major problem, we have come up with 6 alternative solutions. The first solution that we propose is to hire a new IT vendor, because we believe that by hiring a new IT vendor, it will ensure that we have a reliable vendor, as it will be compatible with the current hardware. Along with that, it also allows our new vendor to have a diverse perspective to solve this issue. However, by hiring a new IT vendor, it will be costly and time consuming, as it requires a lot of resources. And lastly, it has a higher risk of problem recurring again because there's already problem with the previous vendor. So what difference would it make if we have a new vendor? And secondly, to get a new system from the current vendor. As the current vendor of NNA Bank have an ongoing relationship, therefore they are familiar with their internal affairs. Thus, the change to a new system would be a cheaper and easier way to transfer from the old to the new system. Furthermore, they will have better communication as we believe that they already have a proper understanding between each other. And as for the disadvantages, there will be a lack of confidence in the current vendor. So will it be a wise decision to trust them again? And not to forget, the main problem might not go away. And thirdly, is to upgrade the current IT hardware, where the advantages is that we believe upgrading IT hardware would make it more compatible with any software and it will also improve the performance and stability after the upgrade. As for the disadvantages, the upgrade might not be able to fix the issues. If any bank purchase the wrong hardware as well as the cost purchasing new hardware will be quite expensive. Fourthly, hiring an ITSM would be a good choice too, as it would be the cheapest decision to make. Hiring a professional to fix the problem would save costs on expenses like buying new hardware or buying new system. Thus, a 24 hours internet support system will always be accessible for any bank. Sadly, there will always be the downside of it, which is the security risk of the bank could be interrupted as there will be lack of control due to the fact that any bank will be relying on an outsourced service provider. And the first solution would be to analyze the OC model. The OC model has several layers, and as mentioned in the case study, and then bank uses network and application layer to solve the issue. And it might be possible that the layers they are using might not be compatible enough to solve the issue, as they might be missing out other layers, which is why the system breaks down every 2 months after it's being fixed. The good thing about OC model is that it makes it easier to identify problem and also helps users and operator of the ATM machine to troubleshoot the cause of their problems. Whereas the downfall would be that it's only done based on theoretical research and its model is very complex and costly. Lastly, to have a forecasting plan which will give us a clear vision on how to reach the alternative solution. It will also create a proper plan in order to reach the goals to solve the failure problem permanently. But one small issue for this solution is that there might be some unexpected error along the way as it is only just a reference to possible future. To conclude, here are the findings to suggested and researched by Ayuni and Shakira in their presentation, and here are the six solutions that I just presented. So to wrap things up, in the end, NNA Bank of Malaysia is responsible for deciding on their next course of action, despite the findings and discussion of alternative solutions that have been suggested.
Hi, I am Aida Hanani and I will present the recommended solution for NNE Bank. After analyzing all the proposed solutions, we recommend NNE Bank to hire a new vendor. This is because it combines all suggested solutions into a single alternative. NNE Bank does not have to upgrade its hardware, incur additional cost hiring ITSM as the new vendor could help provide the system that is compatible to NNE Bank's hardware, which could avoid damaging the hardware together with providing sufficient support systems to the bank. Not only that, a forecasting plan is included in the process of hiring the new vendor. Next, a major revamp is needed as the problems faced by NNE Bank are big, involving three areas, which are the networks, servers, and storage systems. Lastly, NNA Bank has an annual profit of 1.4 billion ringgit, which means they have enough financial capacity and resources to employ a reputable vendor. Therefore, the solution is proposed as it is better to do the right thing once to benefit the bank in the long term. Next, for the implementation part, I will present on what should be done by NNA Bank to perform the proposed solution. First is conducting system development lifecycle. It comprises 5 stages. Firstly is system analysis, in which initial investigation, system survey, feasibility study, information needs, and system requirements are determined. Secondly, conceptual design, which is about deciding how to meet user needs, identify and evaluate design alternatives, and develop design specifications. Thirdly, physical design involves translating the concept into detailed specifications by using code and test ATM programs, design input-output documents, create databases, develop procedures, and build control. Next, implementation and conversion include the process of installing and testing the new ATM system as well as converting the old system to the new system. Lastly, the operation and maintenance phase is where post-implementation review is conducted to determine whether the ATM system meets its objectives. Therefore, all relevant players of NNA Bank, including top management, accountants, project development team, and system analysts, must be involved in SDLC to ensure the implementation is successful. Next, the Gantt chart is used as a technique for scheduling and monitoring systems development activities. The project activities are identified based on SDLC and located at the left and time across the top. For each activity, a bar of expected time is drawn and the bar will be filled in the moment the activity is completed. This method is presented to help NNA Bank to understand and keep track of the current status of the project. That's all from our group. Thank you.